Hey there, it's Lisa Haggis, brand strategist, and I'm so excited to welcome you to the Substantial Brand Spotlight series. This is a series all about digging in deep behind the scenes with brands who have become known for something in their field, identifying all of the different decisions and pivots and aha moments that they've had along the way so that we can take away some insights and gems for building our own brand. So today's interview is with Cathy Olson of LoveInspired. I have loved the work of this incredibly talented designer for years, and it was such a pleasure to finally get to dive in and learn how things are working for her behind the scenes. Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about your story and where you started versus where you are now in your business and brand.
Yeah, it's funny when I think back about my story. I feel like I've retold my stories so many times, but every time I think about it, I start to see all these parallels, like with my throughout my life, right? And so I think I was always very creative when I was younger, and I always was trying everything. Like I was definitely, which is very much who I am today. And I think that this has just been me from day one. It kind of led me to, I did crazy things when I was little, which is so weird. And now I have two daughters. I have a 4 and a 7-year-old, and I'm not pushing them like I was when I was doing all these fun things and stuff when I was growing up. So I'm like thinking I need to be doing that with them because it set me up for where I am today. There were so many things that I did even like when I was little that set
Yeah.
me up for today. I was in a dark room in like 4th grade, printing, like doing photography and stuff. And even when I was like in junior high, I was doing design stuff. I worked for the yearbook, and so we were doing print layouts like the old school way. And then even up through high school, I took graphic design classes in high school, and I was doing offset printing and screen printing and all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, so many things because I had this just open mind to try stuff like in all the world. It really set me up to have so much experience before I got here, right? But really I was kind of have had the web and the graphic design going at the same time. But around the time when I went to school and college, they really didn't. Web design was still kind of newish, so they
Yeah.
didn't teach it at my school. So I was kind of teaching myself. So as far as website design, I'm basically self-taught, which is kind of funny to think about it now. But I'm like classically taught in graphic design. And then I got kind of thrown into this business world. So I worked for a design studio for a while. I was a senior graphic designer, and then I started doing wedding invitations on the side because I was getting
Mm.
married. And of course, as soon as you get married, you make all these BFFs that are getting married. So we had this little online forum that we would go and I live in San Diego, so we was like a San Diego bride thing, and we became BFFs. And I was doing all these invitations, and I started this like little side hustle thing, even
Yeah.
though I was a graphic designer during the day, and I was doing like big brands. Like I was working with Costco and Disney, Best Buy, like all these huge brands. And then I had this little like paper company kind of at night. And it's so funny because I would meet clients in my house, and my husband, well, he wasn't my husband yet, but my fiance basically was not okay with, having people in and out of our house all the time. It's so funny. I tell the story because I get what it's like to be in that struggle of, starting your business, and whatever it takes, like I would
Yeah.
come home from work a full time, and then I would do this like the rest of the night, so I was working like crazy. um but we had to have like a partition on our house because my husband like would refuse to wear pants as soon as he came home. So he would like kick off his pants and like just want to walk around in his boxers. So we had to like have like the house partitioned off so he could freely walk around in his boxers while I was meeting clients in the other room. So it's kind of funny. But either way, like that kind of, got me into the business world, which I had
Mhm.
never planned on being an entrepreneur at all. Like my whole,
Mhm.
plan was to work for an agency or do marketing or design, whatever, right? Like that was like my plan. And then this kind of fell in my lap, and I did really well with my invitation business. So it just sort of took off. And then it got to the point where I couldn't do both. I was kind of juggling the
Mm.
both, which a lot of people might be at that point right now. But I had this amazing design job. I had a salary job. It was like actually like when the recession was hitting basically, and I was like one of the only people who had a job, but I had
Right.
2 jobs. I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh, this is crazy. Like everyone else is like struggling, but I had to make this decision. So I really just couldn't imagine giving up on my dream. And I just loved my clients and who I was working with. And I loved being able to do like a really feminine, romantic design, which is not
Hmm.
what I was doing in my corporate job.
Right.
So I really just shifted and I said, I got to give this up. And so when I quit my job, everyone thought I was crazy. Like, what on earth are you doing? But I'm like, I can't, like, this is it for me. Like, this is what I was meant to do, you know? And so I started the invitation business. I got pregnant, married, pregnant, all that good stuff. And then it was getting harder and harder to meet with clients and brides when I was like super duper pregnant. Like I had the worst pregnancy of like all time. And then meanwhile, again, falls along the line of me testing out this, and that, right? I started meeting other wedding professionals and they were like, hey, don't you know website design and graphic design and logos? And I'm like, yeah, but I just do paper now, blah, blah, blah. But they're like, but you know our market. Like it's so hard to find somebody that understands the wedding industry like you do. Like you're in it, you know what the brides want, right? And we're finding all these designers and they're just like men, or they're like have this really like masculine modern aesthetic, and that's not us. Like we want the romance, right? We want the story. So basically that was when Love Inspired was born. So I actually had
Okay.
two businesses at that point. I had my invitation business and Love Inspired. And then as it was getting harder and harder and harder to do the paper stuff, the really physical stuff,
Yeah.
with having a newborn and all kinds of stuff, I realized the other side of it, where I was working with wedding professionals to do their branding, was a lot more lucrative. I was making way more money, and it had a lot less overhead. Right, I didn't have any paper or shipping to deal with, and I wasn't even meeting with clients in person. We were doing it like
Yeah.
over the phone, and they were like all over the place. So that's when I decided to close the invitation business, and Love Inspired was born. And that was 10 years ago this year.
Okay.
So Love Inspired has been around for 10 years. This is our 10th anniversary. And this year, everything's changing.
Really? Okay, cool.
It's
We're
like
going to
10
talk about
years
that.
to build up this thing. And like now I mean, it's not totally unrecognizable, but it's
Right.
changed a ton, for basically from 2018 and beyond. So,
Okay. So let's talk about what's changing in a minute. But
yeah.
first, kind of go back through some of the other stuff you were just talking about. So, what was really clear to me was you were so driven by passion, like for what you do. And like, I feel as though you're clearly a really intuitive person. Like, you were just kind of following the yellow brick road, and allowing yourself to just trust that
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
felt
I think
passionate about was the right way to go.
totally.
Is that
Yeah.
kind
I
of
think
true?
Yes, no, I mean, and it's not like it's easy, right? Like
No.
all of the steps were scary, but I think that every time I just took that leap of faith, every time I just kind of stepped out and be like, okay, I'm doing this, like
Yeah.
good things would happen. And so it gave, like, the more and more I stepped out, and even sometimes that I failed, right? But I just like, okay, that didn't work, and then just fix it. Like the more I just tried and just went out there and did it, the more that like the good was coming out of it, right? So
Yeah.
it was easier, it got easier and easier and easier to make these big steps, because like when it was like rewarded in a way, right? Like when I took that leap of faith, it was rewarded after. So I think it made it easier for me, even though it's never easy. Even after the 100th time, it's never like, oh sure, cool, this is a walk in the park, right? It's like always scary, but it's
Yeah.
just about pushing past just a little bit past that comfort zone, and then all the good, then it like ends up being worth it. You're like, oh, okay, whew, okay, that was good. But not that I
Yeah.
never made mistakes, because hello, like I could tell you tons of mistakes where I've lost lots and lots of money, but it all like equals out in the end.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear one of the mistakes that stand out for you, like along that
Oh
journey.
my gosh. So yeah, like I feel like I could spend more time on that than the good things. I mean, the good things make it worth it, but
Yeah.
gosh, getting burned out, like not
Mm,
charging enough. I mean, for the longest time, and it was, I was so dumb. I mean, I can't even believe now like what I was charging, but at the same time, like there's so many people that are struggling with it. There's something about the creative soul, but maybe even like the female creative soul specifically, where we just like want to help people and we don't
yeah.
think that we should be paid for it. I don't know what it is. I think it's because it comes so easy to us, and because we love it so much, that we tend to just, have I don't know, we don't value it or something. Like we think like,
Right.
well, I wouldn't pay that, so who else is going to pay that? Or we just don't see our worth, and it's so sad. I talk to designers and creatives all the time now, and I see them for who they are, and they don't see themselves, right? And it's so
Right.
sad, but like I get it because I was totally there, and it's still, we all struggle with it. No, like it's never going to be something I'm going to be magically cured of, right?
Right.
But that was the thing, I wasn't charging enough. I was really in demand, and I just got major, like, overbooked myself, said yes to everybody because I wanted to help, because I was on this planet to help people. It was like the whole thing, like it killed me to say no to somebody. And so like I
Right.
took on way too much, which made it, my clients unhappy, and they didn't feel like the love that I really wanted to give them. So it made me feel worse. And it's just like this whole cycle. And then especially before I had kids, I was up working till like whatever time, right? Like I didn't have a stop time. It was 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's different where you are, but here in San Diego, we have these like night birds that come out. Like as soon as they start chirping, like you're working too late. Like you're like, because they
I
like
love
get
that.
all active. I don't know what time. Like once it's like 2 or 3 a.m. and they just like start going crazy, and you're like, and I would hear them, and I'd be like, oh, what's up, guys? Like it was like but, then I'd wake up exhausted again and trying to do it, and drinking tons of coffee. It just was so
Right.
unsustainable. And I wasn't charging enough to bring anybody else on to help me. I mean, it was like a
Mm.
crazy cycle. And so that was one of the I wasted time in that space way too long. I'm talking like years I was in that space, just
Right.
overbooked, too busy, not making enough money. So I had to say yes, 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 yes to everybody. And ugh, so hard.
So, what helped you shift out of that space?
It took me a long so like I said, I was way too long in that space. But I honestly think what happened, which was the catalyst for me, is like what happened with my health issues. So,
Mm.
in 20, like getting the I guess it was 2012. I was diagnosed with a tumor that was like wrapped 3/4 of the way around my carotid artery on my right side. And
Right.
so when that all happened, like I had nothing was certain after that. I had my daughter. She was 18 months old around the time that I had the surgery. But going up to the surgery, I was told that there was all these things that could happen to me. Basically, obviously death is a huge one, right? Because
Yeah.
anytime they are trying to remove a tumor on your artery, if it's really hard to tell what's tumor and what's artery, right? So it's like anytime they do that, if they accidentally nick the artery, they have to clamp it, and during the time they're clamping it, you're basically having a stroke. So
Right.
just as fast as they can make that happen, there's all kinds of issues, obviously, but more so it could be I could be have issues like brain damage, like permanent brain damage. And
Mhm.
because it was on my right side, the right side, I know way more about your brain than everyone ever wants to know, but because it's on the right side, it controls your creativity, it controls your personality, it controls your just who you are, right? Like
Right.
creativity, personality, to me, that's 100% everything else it is, right? I mean, that's everything.
Yeah.
And even the ability to speak, it also, like, part of it goes to your mouth. So like it's like my voice, my like everything on
Yes.
the line, and so when I went through that whole ordeal, and honestly basically preparing for the worst, because I totally did. I made a video to my daughter telling her goodbye. Like it was like I was totally set. Like if anything happened to me, I had everything in place. I had all my clients set out, who was going to get their money back. This was what was going to happen with this client. Like, I mean, you could not be more prepared than I was. But I had to do that in order to be like, okay, I can face it, and I'm not going to burden anybody, right? But anyways, with going through that, when I survived, that's when everything changed for me. I was like,
Mhm.
I can't go on like this. I can't go on killing myself, designing subpar stuff, for, just churning stuff out. Like these clients are hiring me for help. Like this is the one chance that I had. Like tomorrow I could be gone, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
thinking about legacy. If I'm gone tomorrow, like what did I do for these clients? And so it started, instead of really like a money situation, it was more like, how am I showing up the best? Because this is my one chance to be a part of their life and totally change things for them. And like, did I waste it? Right? Did I waste my one chance to work with this person? Like, where I could have been that catalyst that, created a brand and a website that changed their life, right? Like their business
Wow.
takes off, their family takes off, like all of these things I could have done for them. And I didn't show up because I was too stupid to, like not too stupid, but I was too, I was saying yes to
Scared.
everybody. And yeah, scared. And I was working from a scarcity mindset, right? Like I
Yeah.
wasn't able to show up. So that was what that whole shift in perspective about like, what am I here on this earth to do? Like, what will people say about me when I'm gone? Like, did I help people in the best capacity I could? That was where it was like, okay, enough is enough. I can't continue to do it this way anymore. And so that's when I was like, my design has to get better. I have to take less clients. I have to charge more. I have to give them better. Like I have to give them not just some cool, pretty design. Like it has to be
Mhm.
soul fueled. It has to be passion driven. I have to like dig into their story. Like, who are they? Right. Like, I have to give them every single ounce of what I had, and I couldn't do it the way I was doing it. So that's when I started like trying to figure out, how do people do it? Like, how do they start charging more? What does high end design look like? And that's kind of when it's like a walkabout sort of, right? Like, what makes a high-end designer, and who pays these high-end prices, and what do they get for those? And that's kind of where I
Yeah.
everything shifted for Love Inspired, was kind of coming out from that.
Damn.
I know that's super heavy, but
No,
it's the
it's like,
truth.
I'm like, you gave me goosebumps for sure. It doesn't feel heavy at all, strangely. It feels really inspiring. And what I love the most is that you took a situation that could be very me centered, like you didn't charge enough and that was leaving you with not enough money, and
Right.
having to work late and not feeling good about your work. But it sounds like what ultimately ended up driving you was that you wanted to serve them better, and
Right.
you realized that by like wimping out and keeping your prices low, you were actually doing them a disservice and
Absolutely.
robbing them of all that you could bring.
Right.
And I love that reframe. Like, that's, I think that most people who don't charge enough, it's because they're very generous with
Right.
their,
Yeah, you think you're helping people by not charging enough, but honestly, it's the opposite.
yes, I love that.
Yeah.
That's
And
incredible.
really, it's because I came to that epiphany because I thought, like, well, once I'm gone, all that
Mhm.
matters, or the only proof that I was on this earth, is what I did for other people, because they're the ones
Right.
that are going to go on, right? So like, that's where, like I said, when I was thinking about legacy, it's like, it doesn't matter my day to day, all this stuff that I'm dealing with, right? Like, once I'm gone, that stops. But what did I do for everybody else? What is everybody else going to say about me? And that's where that shift came. So not that I'm like Mother Teresa and I was like, oh, I want to help all the people like that. It became because I thought, did I waste this moment? Like, did I waste this time with this person where I could have positively impacted their life and made a difference? So, I mean, it's kind of self-centered in a way, because
Right.
I'm
No,
still
I
thinking like, what did I do for them? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, yeah, it's
yeah,
like wanting your life to have mattered
right,
and meant
exactly.
something, and
Yeah. But
that's
yes,
that.
but
It's
yeah,
not selfish.
I don't
It
want it to sound more noble than it is. Like, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it is about them, but it again, like, that's where I
yeah.
came to that. It was just because if I didn't show up, if I wasn't there for them, basically, if I didn't take care of myself, I wouldn't be able to take care of them.
So,
And so that,
knowing that like you're driven by something bigger in your business, do you have an actual purpose or mission statement or anything that like, is part of your brand strategy that guides you?
yes, yeah. So again, it's kind of like, in retrospect, I see these like patterns that are kind of happening. And so with Love Inspired, how it's kind of changing this year is we're taking way less clients, and we're just doing like some really hands-on, just like
Okay.
super, super strategic stuff. So I've basically like kind of taken, not, I haven't taken down my contact page, but you can't like work with me unless we have like a really in-depth conversation. Like, it has to be, work for both of us. And so
Mhm.
so we're scaling that way back. We're kind of finishing up a bunch of launches right now, but we're scaling it way back. And then I'm also, that it also opens up the opportunity for the new courses and programs we're offering too, which I'm just like obsessed with. I like love so much. And that's kind of another funny thing, that once I started shifting into the programs and teaching phase, oh my gosh, like, you being out there, it's like times 100,000. Like, people, you have to get really tough really quick, because when you're exposed to
Mm.
so many more people at in such like a wide, I mean, in social media, I would say, like, not even real life, right? Like, in social media, you're gonna start getting some crazy like haters and mean comment. Like, it's stuff that is not for the faint of heart. And I didn't expect, I just didn't think that people were that mean, I guess, so
Uh-huh.
that's been a whole like thing kind of pushing out there. But again, basically with Love Inspired, our whole idea is to really be to meet someone at a point of like basically a catalyst movement when they're getting ready to shift into something else, and they've gotten as far as they could get, but they really need like high end strategy, high end design, like really intuitive like site flow and conversion strategy, like just really high end stuff. And it's not for everybody, right? Actually, it shouldn't be for everybody. it should
Mhm.
be it should only be for people who are in that place. So that's kind of where Love Inspired is at. Where as far as the programs are kind of the same. So I launched Inspired Pro in, was it March, April? I don't know. So it's all running it together. But anyways, in this early spring, we launched Inspired Pro. So that is kind of me teaching other designers how to become high-end designers. So this kind of whole thing that I went through where I
Mhm.
shifted from, that mid-level, trying to fight for clients, going in Facebook groups and posting. And I say it's kind of like the Hunger Games when you go in the Facebook group and you post there, and then all these other people are fighting, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm out of that, So we teach basically people how to get from that mid level where they're competing with everybody to get to the high end designer. Like I said, like that whole shift that I learned about,
Mhm.
I just teach how I did it. So there's that. But again, it's you're in this level that you can't break out of, and you need to get to the next level, but you're not sure how to get there, and you just need that extra help to get there. So it's like it's very similar as to where like I'm kind of facilitating get from one place to the other, but
Mhm.
with both business owners and other graphic designers and creatives to just kind of move them forward.
Right. So, like, what was the driving factor behind launching these courses and developing this other side of, so is it two separate businesses, or is it like a sub brand to the Love Inspired brand, your Inspired Pro?
Yeah, it's basically like Love Inspired is more our agency. It's like
Mhm.
where we have our team. I'm obviously the lead designer, and then we have the team, and then I have designer for a day, brand designer for a day, web designer for a day, which are like really simple, like low end DIY products for like
Mhm.
almost everybody. And then Inspired Pro, and that's kind of just for any small business owners that just need like help with branding, or they're basically courses and templates too. And
Mhm.
then and that's where I got a lot of visibility because I had to throw it out to tons of people, and that's when all the crazy stuff started happening. And then Inspired Pro is a little higher end. It's for other designers because I basically had to I basically paid attention to who my audience was. So in the reason I started teaching and shifting into a teaching place is because I think that I just people were starting to tell me that it was time because I was getting more and more questions. And like a
Mhm.
lot of people ask me like when should I shift to teaching? And you'll know. Like when people start picking your brain about stuff, and they're like, "Wait, how did you do that? How did you do this? How did you do that?" And you're going to start like if you're at a conference and you start telling someone some advice, and then people start kind of gathering around and like
Yeah.
like listen, that's when like, okay, I have something to say. Like I've been through some stuff, and people want to know how I did it, right? With the designer thing, again, like people just started asking me about design. And then with the small business thing, people in small businesses were looking to DIY, but they weren't in this high end range. And I was basically turning them all away because it couldn't really help them. So it
Mhm.
was a way for me to help everyone. Like, of course I like helping people. So I help in a DIY way, and in a course way, really inexpensive, and then also help other designers shift so they don't have to feel like I did.
Okay. So I want to ask something because I feel as though one of the things that you hear branding people say all of the time is it's okay to turn people away. So I want
Mhm.
to know a little about have you found that diversifying this way has affected your ability to like run a prestige, high level, high touch agency? And was there any fear around that happening when you decided to launch courses for more DIY people? Do you know what
Yeah,
I'm
no,
getting at?
yeah, no, I totally do. Absolutely, it's made a difference, 100%. I mean, in a few different ways. I think the biggest thing is when I first started putting these courses out, I had no idea if they were going to work. It's kind of like, meh, all right, let's just try it, let's see what happens. I had to be really strategic about it, and I had to, block aside some time to do it. So it cost me a lot of money, right? Like I didn't have the availability that I could have, in my service based side, right?
Yeah.
So it was a gamble for sure, but I had to do it. It's just like anything. I got to try it and see what happens, And I really loved it, and it did really well, and it was well received, and I was very 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 strategic about what I was offering, and that it
Mhm.
was something that was not out in the marketplace already, and I really listened to what people needed and made something that didn't exist. Like that's like the biggest thing I could say if anyone's thinking about doing any kind of courses or programs like that, you have to like spend more time figuring out what the offer is than even making it,
Oh,
because
I
that is
love
like
that.
one thing that is going to make or break it. It's got to be so irresistible that people are like, all right, I'll get up and go grab my credit card. It's hard to do. It's hard to get somebody to get up and all my purse is all the way across the room. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's a big deal. So that offer thing, I spent months just creating the offer. Like so I
Okay.
did it very differently this time than I had tried in the past, and it totally paid off because I created
Right.
something that didn't exist and already out there.
Yeah. I find it a really interesting area to dig into with you because one of the things that I'm hearing a lot is that people are moving away from even trying to do courses. Um,
Right.
and it's just becoming such a saturated space.
Right.
And I think it's really important. Like, I'd like to kind of detail some of the things you had in place that enabled you to succeed when you decided to launch a course.
As far as like what things I had in place, I mean, I think I needed to know what I knew that other people didn't know. Like so really focusing on my genius zone and what makes me different, like just like with
Mhm.
branding, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of the same way I would go about branding. What's
Yeah.
my secret sauce? How do I deliver content? Like how, what's my voice, right? Really, because it kind of goes, it really does. It's all the things with branding. It's the same thing with because you basically have to become the expert, and you have to become you have to be known for something because you can't
Yeah.
just teach a bunch of courses about a million things. Like that's not going to work.
Right.
You have to be the go-to person, which I would say the same thing in your branding too.
Yes.
You have to be referable for that thing. Oh, you need to know about this, Kathy's your girl. Oh, you need to know about this, Lisa's your girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to be known for that thing. And so I did a lot of work ahead of time knowing like what do I even want to teach, right? What's my genius zone? But then again, I just like really dug into people and like what is missing, what is that one thing that people wish? Almost like you got to think of like what is that impossible thing? Like the
Mm.
problem that people think is not solvable, because if you can find an answer that to something that everyone thinks is just a problem that people just kind of bitch and complain about, like that, you're gonna sell it like easy. I mean, of course there's always the selling part too, and I think that in becoming a high-end designer, like a lot of things that we teach in Inspired Pro is how to sell, because it's a
Yeah.
big part of it, right? Sell, but on both sides. So learning how to sell it, but really it's about creating an irresistible offer on both sides, right? For your brand, for
Mhm.
your service-based business, you have to have an irresistible offer, and for courses, you have to have an irresistible offer. So really digging in to see like what are the pain points, what are people struggling with. But yeah, if you can find that impossible thing that everyone else thinks that there's like, oh yeah, that sucks, right? Like that's it. Like there's no
Yeah,
advice for.
I love that.
Like you could go into a Facebook group and you could see like what are people saying, like have questions. Oh hey, how do you guys get over this? And people are like, I don't know. Oh, it's the worst, right? And then you're like, but no one has an answer. I'm like, oh my gosh, come up with an answer to that, and you've got yourself a service and you've got yourself a course, right? Like either
Right.
one, you have that offer.
So what is the impossible problem that you help people solve with your course?
Yeah. So with Brand Designer for a Day, it's basically it's like logo templates. But the cool thing, or I don't know if it's impossible, but it's the thing that
Yeah.
makes it so different is that it's the templates plus showing you how to customize it, and it's really inexpensive.
Okay.
So it depends on if it's for sale or not. Normally it's for sale for $47, but sometimes you'll catch it for sale for as low as $27. So it's like a crazy great deal for like it's just stuff that I designed being a professional designer for 18 years.
Yeah.
Design these templates, but I show you how to like pick your colors and how to come up with your story and really just dive in. It's not as deep as obviously what we would do, like
Mhm.
one-on-one, but of course it's $27. So you gotta think
Yeah.
about, so it's good for people that are just starting out to get like a professional enough brand that you can kind of feel confident about, because it's really about confidence when you're just starting out. And and it's not just something you'd buy on Etsy or Creative Market or whatever. You are creating it yourself, so there's like that sense of like pride and ownership too. So
Hmm.
it's really cool. It's just a little hybrid kind of what's out there, but all in one package, and then it all, of course, for me. So I'm gonna have a different perspective on it.
Hmm.
Um, and then we also have web designer for a day, which kind of just follows along after brand designer for a day. So now your brand looks good. What about your website? So it kind of shows you how to customize and update your website to look as good as your brand. And then,
Okay.
so that's what I'm saying is for like the more small business owner, like just getting started, kind of just needs something professional, or maybe like someone who already has a business, but they're like creating a second business or some kind of side thing. They don't want to go full on in on branding, with a
Hmm.
professional. It's just kind of there for that. But the Inspired Pro is really, it's like what I talked about. Nobody knows how to get out of that space, like that mid-level space. People, like, it's funny because we create our own ceilings because people are like, sometimes you can add coaching calls onto it. And I had a coaching call just yesterday, and we were talking about that when I was struggling getting over the $10,000 mark. So like I would keep inching towards it with my website. So I'd be like, okay, 7,250. All right. 8,250. Okay, 8,500, 80, 750. Like I was just kind of like inching. I was like, nobody's gonna pay. As soon as it gets to the double digit and then K, like no one's gonna pay it. And so for so long, I was just like chilling at that space. And I was telling, my the student this, and she's like, okay, that's how I feel about the $5,000 mark.
Hmm.
And she's like, and for me, it's like, oh, $5,000, that's so easy, because
Right.
so it's just like we create our own ceilings, no matter if it's 2K, 5K, 10K, 20, whatever it is, right? We create our own
Yes.
ceilings and we just can't get past it.
Yeah.
So we have like students that are like, some are super beginners and some have been in the business for 28 years and they still are dealing with these ceilings and they can't figure out how to get past it. So
Absolutely.
for me, that was the impossible problem that Inspired Pro solves. And also it just shows you how to do it
Hmm.
versus like an exact formula. Here's my scripts, here's what I do, here's the emails I send out, here's my process, like all of it, so that it's not kind of touchy feely, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
not like theory, it's more like literally do this and it will work. It's kind of like
Right.
where which doesn't exist. I mean, I don't know anyone else that teaches it like that. So that's been an awesome thing.
Yeah, I think definitely with the niche market, right? Because
Right.
you're helping designers, then it's super unique. Whereas there's lots of coaches that make this promise like with a more broad market, but it's not going to be specific to designers and they won't
Right.
have actually succeeded in doing it
Yeah.
with a design business like you have. So,
You know what the other thing is that I think is kind of an impossible problem, that it's basically like Inspired Pro is two parts. It's half of it is design stuff, like how to actually become a better designer. And then half of it is like how to charge more. Once you're charging more, how to, give them more value, right? So it's like two sides of it, which is
yeah.
cool because sometimes people only need one half. Like, oh, my design's there, but my business side is the one, or my business side's
Yes.
awesome, but my design's not there. So
Yeah.
a lot of times I find someone's not usually like bad at both. They're just like one or the other just needs a little help,
Yeah.
but which is cool because we can help each other, right? So there's people that are really good at design and there's people who are really good at business, and they're like honestly helping each other more than I'm probably even helping them. And I'm trying to, but by the time I get in there, everyone's already answered the question. I'm like, okay, nobody cares about me, but but it's because like just we're all different. But I don't
Yeah.
believe in just arbitrarily charging more if you're not giving your clients more, right? Like I
Yeah.
really do want you to be a better designer. Like this is actually how you create a better product to be worth 2K, 5K, 10K, 15K, right?
Yes.
Like feel
Oh,
like
I
you're
love it.
actually a good designer, because otherwise you'll have imposter syndrome all day. Like, and so yeah, there's coaches be like, here's how you charge. Well, you just charge, like, right, you just up your prices and then there you go.
Yes.
But like,
Yeah.
are you actually better, and are you giving them the return on investment, and are they, are your clients
Yeah.
singing your praises? Like, okay, like there's a big gap there that a lot of people don't address.
Thank you for saying that. That goes back to the whole idea of like a substantial brand, right? Because
Yeah.
like it's not about doing the things you need to do to charge more. It's
Right.
about being worth more.
Right. Right.
And I know that like it's a little tricky because some people can't see their worth, and that's definitely something that you
Oh my
know
god, that's a lot of what I mean, it's not really the course doesn't really cover mindset a ton,
Hmm.
but I find us talking about it all the time. Like,
Right.
yes, you're worth it. And it's funny because, I've seen the shift. Like one of our students, the very first month, she was charging $800 for web design. By the end of the month, she was charging $8,000 for web design.
Oh my
And
God.
right, like
So
I
good.
don't know if I would have had that kind of guts. I'm like, you go. And she's
Right.
booking them. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and then everyone else goes, what? You can charge that? Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, it's like you
Yeah.
needed that one person to give you permission that, like, yes, people are paying this. I promise. Like, don't just take my word for it. Like,
Right.
listen to everybody else that's happening. You don't have to charge that. You're giving the same thing this person's giving, but you're not charging enough for it, and you're
Right.
working like crazy. So it's just, we just need to see someone else do it. And now that it's possible, and even with yourself, like I told one of my students, they're like, I don't know, I want to double my prices from two, I think it was from 2 to 4. And she's like, I don't know how to do it. I said, you just do it. And she's like, literally go on your website right now, put for, like, I mean, of course she's been taking the course too. So I wouldn't just say that to anybody, but I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
go there, put 4K, wait a few days, see what happens. If you book one client, then it's possible, right? And she did, and she booked a client, and I was like, oh my gosh, you were right. So, but
Yeah.
it's just like, gosh, like we're so in our heads about stuff like that. And it's like, if it's worth it to one person, it's worth it to 2 people and 4 people and 8 people. Like, you just
Yeah.
gotta, go for it. But again, it helps to like have that value-based conversation
Mhm.
and not be about design. And that's a big part of it too, is shifting the perception of what you're offering. And so that's where the sales comes in too, of course. Like,
Mhm.
how can we have this be a value-based conversation? I'm not like a web designer. I'm not a service provider, right?
Mhm.
I'm not like a plumber that comes, like, who cares who plumb, right? Like, it has to be you who shows up. You have a reason for charging what you charge. You have the value in it. You have your special sauce of how you do it, right? Like,
Mhm.
it actually makes it so they have a positive result in the end, and it's not just pretty. That's
Right.
when you turn into, that's how you kind of shift that conversation to make
Yeah.
it actually work more, right?
Totally. And I want to even say, like, I'm sure there are plumbers out there who are worth more than other
Sure.
plumbers. Like, if you, like, whatever space you're in, find a way to do better than everybody else. Like,
Right.
innovate and give better
Yeah.
results, or
Yeah.
make it less stressful, or make it faster, or
Yep.
there's always a way to be worth more than somebody else is charging, because
Yeah.
you can deliver better.
It's hard because, like, I know what value means, but I think that it's this kind of like word that's thrown around a lot. People are like, well, what does really value mean?
Hmm.
And I think, value is really about what that person cares about. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what I think value is, right? Like, it's a very personal thing because we all value different things. Like, some of us will spend a lot of money on a purse, and then other people will be like, okay, I just went to Target and grabbed a purse, like, or so whatever, right? So
Right.
value is very subjective. So you have to know what your clients value. So when you're doing your branding, you want to be like, what do they care about? So are
Right.
they the type that has this huge, like this busy lifestyle? They don't want to deal with all this nitty gritty, and they want it all handled for them. Well, then they're going to value me holding their hand, making decisions for them. Like this white glove kind of concierge approach, right? They're
Yeah.
going to pay more for that because they care about that, right? So
Exactly.
finding out what they value, and then providing that, right? Not just arbitrarily, but like very specifically to what they care about. So if they care about time, then that's what they value, right? Because the time is money, right? Or whatever, time is short. Or do they care about it being very different and innovative and looking different from their friends or whoever, right? Or do they care about, again, like not having to think about it and you being the strategist or whatever? Or do they care about the one-stop shop where you want to do copywriting, SEO, design, um, any in marketing? Like, do you want to be the one-stop shop? Like, so what is the thing, like the value conversation that you're stepping up and taking care of for them? And
Hmm.
then if you're giving them what they really value, the money kind of becomes no object at that point because it's so important to them that they'd rather they it's okay to pay for that.
Yes, it's so true. Like, sometimes you notice yourself, like, not even considering the money. But since we talked a lot about pricing, I want to go back and just kind of, like, again reinforce, I love what you said about it not being a totally selfish thing to just raise your prices. It also enables you to deliver like way more thoughtful experiences to your clients, to be more available to them. And it
Right.
could make the difference between them getting an okay result and getting the result that could change their life.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
I feel like that's enough said. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
your pricing should reflect what you can offer uh in terms of a transformation for your clients.
Right.
And if your pricing is actually limiting how much you can deliver, something's wrong.
And
Mhm.
the other side of what you're saying is like it allows you to give more. I think that you also want to think about that the word give in another way to where like the money that you'll have will also allow you to give more, right? I
Right.
know a lot of women have struggle with money blocks and money mindset issues, and I don't want to make too much money, and I don't want to be money like I don't need the Lambo, right? Like whatever, which I don't need a Lambo either. It's fine, but again, like when you think about, okay, but what would this money do for my family? What could I do, beyond my family? Like, can I give back and, and give to schools and give to things that I care about, right?
Mhm.
And leave that legacy like we're talking about, right? If
Yeah.
I have enough margin left over, enough white space and extra money where I don't need to scrape around for clients, and I have extra money, extra breathing room money, right? Then
Yeah.
what can I give with that too? So I mean,
Right.
it's really about serving other people in all ways, right? Not just with your business, but like with your philanthropy, right? Like what else could
Mhm.
I do? What time? Like maybe it would free up your time and then now you can go volunteer somewhere. Like I mean, there's just so much, if you just get over yourself and understand your worth and just give that value and just get over past whatever your ceiling that you're at, you can get
Mhm.
past that, then now you can finally breathe and give and do the things that you were meant to do.
Right. I love it. And you can fund projects like you have, where you have now been able to create incredible products for people who can't afford
Right.
the full
Right.
thing. And so one of the other things you said about before you launched your course was that you have to be known for something, like you have to be the go-to, and like that's totally my language. So I want to go back to it, and like what are you known for, or what have you been known for, or it like if it's changed, then give me a little rundown.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've always been really known for, I mean, I've always been known for design. I've always been known, most people will come to me and be like, "Oh, I wish I could afford Cathy someday," or, "She's my dream designer." And honestly, at first I was like, "Oh, that sucks. I'd like nobody can afford me." It was like this like downer thing. I can't help people. But then I thought, it's okay to be something that someone aspires to. I mean, I think it's actually a good thing for a brand to be like, "Oh, this is my dream home," like you look at a magazine and
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, someday I'm dreaming of that. And it's okay, because I think that's obviously it's good to be known for that, right? Because people
Yeah.
are like, oh, if I had unlimited funds, here's who I would go with, right? But so at first I thought it was a bad thing, like, oh, that stinks, I'm not accessible. But then I realized it's actually a good thing to be seen as. So
Mhm.
when I started realizing that I was being seen as a high-end designer, it also really helped me to launch this course. And it kind of goes with what you're saying too, because I'm seen as this like, reach this kind of, I don't know, a pillar or something to reach to aspire to.
Mhm.
It helped me kind of become out as that leader, right? Okay, well, I'm charging this per website. And we just or I guess it was like not this last month, but the month before that, we had a 60K month, 1 month, which I was can't even believe like it was ever possible, right? But I can, and it's not like I'm saying, oh, hey, you're going to make $60,000, this month or whatever. But just to aspire to that number, to say like someone did that, it's possible, it can happen, like that gives people permission to just push it up, like everything, right?
Right.
So kind of like it's like lifts all right, the rising tide lifts all ships, right? Kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I think I've been known as like a little prestigious. I hate that word, but kind of somewhere up there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
In a
I
good
love
way?
how specific and like unusual that is to hear when when you ask somebody what they're known for, but you're right. Like that's actually even how I describe you. Like I say, this is the designer I would hire when I feel like ready to really invest and have my
Exactly.
next level.
I mean, I'm known for what I was saying too, the strategy, the conversion, the business stuff, usability, obviously high end design, all that good stuff. But again, I
Mhm.
think really mostly I'm just like that the designer that nobody can afford, which is
Okay, so I want to add to that though because
I know that
um,
is really weird that I just said that out loud, but like it really is kind of how people see me. So
no, I think you're like when I think of you, I think of you're very experimental. So like you come with really fresh and original ideas and designs that are really custom, really one of a kind. And if you think about it, when somebody is at that point where they are leveling up, that is exactly what they're craving. They
right,
don't want to look like everybody else. And therefore, the fact that they've been aspiring to work with you is because they know that when they work with you, they're going to have one of a kind,
right.
custom,
Mhm.
really high end quality design that is as original
Yeah.
as they are. And I think that that's what it's about. And then the price is a signifier of that.
Mhm. Right.
And it does, like if your prices were low, you wouldn't have that positioning in people's
Right.
minds.
Right.
Even if
Yeah.
your outcome, like even if your designs were exactly the same,
Yep.
because it wouldn't align with how they see their journey going, or like, oh, I've made it and now I'm ready for the real pro designer. And
Yeah.
so like it's so important to get in the minds of your clients and understand these ways they have of thinking.
Right. Totally.
Um, and because we're talking about like design and how expensive it can be, I'd love to hear a little bit about why is it so important?
Ooh, gosh. It's funny because I feel like I've been defending good design lately. With and we were kind of talking earlier about like the how the industry is changing and stuff, right? So I think that good design is really under fire right now, or at least like just in perspective of me being a designer for as long as I have and kind of seeing how design used to be treated and how it is treated now. I mean, first of all, it was so inaccessible back then.
Hmm.
Like it was, you'd have to go to a studio or an agency. Like, people didn't just do it from their homes. It wasn't like
Yeah.
anything like it is today. But because the bar has been so lowered that like anybody can be a designer if you can open up Canva, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like there's become this like kind of war against design. I think, what's good design and why do you need to spend this much and what I don't understand. I can just do this on myself with Canva. Like, so there's been a lot of that. And I think that's actually fed into the mid-level designer issue and why they're struggling to charge more too, because they think that they're competing with Fiverr and, Upwork when they're not, right? Like we're
Mm.
trying to like, no, stop it. Like you're not competing with them. But I think it's under fire right now. So, and I'm sure you understand.
Yeah, well,
You're
it
like,
reminds me a
yes,
lot. It reminds me a lot of the same thing that photographers are going through,
right,
right?
totally,
Because
yeah,
anybody can pick up a really expensive camera
yeah,
and
and think they're a photographer. But then,
exactly.
yeah, so gosh, I mean, it's really about, focusing on that in that value conversation, right? So
Yeah,
what is the difference between, a $5 logo and a $5,000 logo? Like really people don't know the answer to that. Like a
right.
lot of business owners, especially if you go in the Facebook groups and stuff and see them talking about branding, they're like, you don't need that. Just go to Wix.com. And like, it's always like, oh gosh. But then you just I gotta say, I used to be super stuck up about this stuff, but I'm more open minded about it now because I do have a product that's cheaper.
Yeah,
Right? So like I am like I think it's good branding matters for everyone, but I think it matters more when you're trying, like where you are in business.
yeah,
So like if you're just starting out and you're not really making any money, like don't spend tons of money on a brand because you're not ready for it anyways, right? Like your
right.
business is going to morph and change and do all kinds of crazy things. And I know that people are probably going, oh, don't say that, Cathy, but I'm being honest, like, right?
Yeah,
You're making
totally.
$0 a month, $500 a month, whatever.
Right.
Like, do not spend $2,000 on a brand. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You're not there yet. You're just
Yeah.
like going for a Lambo and you're not ready when you just turned 16 and you're just like, come on, just baby steps, just a
Yeah.
little bit, back up the truck just a little bit. I still think that you can do these discovery things on your own. I just don't think that you should go all the way in, with that,
Mhm.
unless there's one caveat to that. Unless you have a business plan that's like where you're like, you're not making any money right now, but it's going to be this huge business. And yes, like, and you have to come out
Yeah.
guns blazing, of course, like, right. Like,
Right. Yeah. I
you
think
get
it's
that.
a difference like between a service-based business that can really start like on a shoestring budget and just kind of
Right.
grassroots its way up. But
Sure.
if it's an app or
Yeah.
if it's a
The next
technology
Uber or
product or
something.
something,
Yeah, you're
you,
gonna need.
you need the brand from the start, or like a
Yeah.
retail shop,
Yeah. So I
um,
think when really good branding does come into play is when you really need to stand out.
mhm,
Like when if your market's super crowded, or maybe even if it's not crowded, like if you're actually paving a path that doesn't exist, you need good branding too. Like,
mhm,
just any time that you need to cut through the noise and be heard and be seen, and like, okay, I have this specific thing that I'm doing for specific people that's going to change everything.
mhm,
That's when your branding is going to matter, um,
right,
and like, so when you want to charge more, right? Like when you want to work less, when you want to work with better clients, I mean, all of those things, anytime you need to grow up and kind of big girl pants on time, that's when branding's really going to matter, because it's the first impression. And so many people talk about copy, and I'm obsessed with copy, and it's incredible and it's amazing, but people won't even look at your copy if the first impression is off, right?
right,
They're not even going to get to the second paragraph, even though, or whatever. So it's just kind of hand in hand, which is good
yeah,
copy is obviously amazing. And if you have really good branding and horrible offer and horrible copy, it's not going to matter either. So
mhm,
there's like definitely things that you
right,
can do that go together. But I think, yeah, that's when I think great branding really matters, is when you need that story to get told and to get listened to. And the only way people are going to give you a chance is if you have, the look kind of going, right?
right,
And you're speaking to them like on a higher level with visuals versus just kind of talking, or like that.
right. And what's the difference between visuals that really speak to people and what they could get off of Fiverr?
Customization for sure. So being personalized to that person, and
Mm.
having a specific, like basically the solution to a problem, versus just like something like something that looks good, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're not specifically attracting that person. You're like, it really needs to be targeted. I guess targeted is a better word than customized.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
customized and targeted to the person, to both. Because a lot of people ask me, like, is my brand me or is it them? And I think it's got to be both, especially
Yeah.
especially in service-based businesses. I almost even feel like product-based businesses still have to have a face. Like there still has to be like a person behind it, because
Hmm.
people just don't connect with things. They connect humans. I mean, that's how we're built, right? Like
Yeah.
like we're just relational people. And so even products, like they have to have a story behind them. Like you don't, like, I mean, you think about all the big brands, they're not just the product. I mean,
No.
they're
Yeah.
not a piece of plastic, right? Like they have a movement, and there's like, something to like rally behind, right? This story is
Yeah.
everything. So I think that design helps connect that story in a way that words can't, because you're especially women too, we're so emotional, and just like, and
Mm.
I think design's really I'll even venture to say that design is more important for women than it is for men, because men
Ooh.
are very utilitarian,
Yeah.
and it has to, the function's very important, and it has to make, I've done studies and stuff on this stuff, and I've read book, and I'm
Yeah.
such a geek about usability stuff. So like men want things to like make sense, and it to be like, and actually they're very drawn to symmetry, whereas women can appreciate the asymmetrical and symmetrical, which is kind of funny. Like I feel like we can see beauty in like all things, whereas
Hmm.
men are like, that doesn't make sense. Like they don't, like they'll get design if it follows like if it makes the function better. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
men will appreciate design if it makes their job easier, or whatever they're trying to
Yeah.
do, right? So like they wouldn't love design just for the sake of it's pretty. Whereas women are like, it's, oh, this doesn't work very well, but it's so pretty. I mean, high heels. Okay, there you go. Like, there's, that proves my point right there. It's beautiful, but you know, you're gonna have blisters, but it's okay.
Not a good, yeah, like not
Whereas
a good idea, but beautiful.
and you're like, it has to be comfortable and I mean, the design's cool and everything, but it's got to be comfortable, right? So I would say like design even matters more if you have any kind of a feminine or you have like a really emotional story where you need to touch on emotions, whether it's male or female. Like the brand is going to really matter in those cases when you have a story like a passion, you know, something that
Yeah.
kind of evoke emotion, whether it's pain, happiness, you know, sadness, like anything. It's the visuals are the only way to kind of break through that, I think.
I love it. You're right. It's so like brand is more than the visual component, right? So it's made up of that story. But if you know your story inside out, but your visuals aren't communicating it, then it's lost, right?
It feels inauthentic,
Like
right?
it could be, you might even have a one of a kind product and or service that is 100% unique, and it can get lost in translation. So I see designers as translators.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is a skill and a talent that you can't just pick up without experience and innate talent in it, right?
Yeah,
So
totally.
to me, that's what I see as the difference between doing it yourself or, you know, hiring somebody who does it really like in a utilitarian way, like the like you're saying. And to me, like making it pretty is still just utilitarian because
Right.
there's no depth to it. It's still just functional, like, oh, it's pretty and that's the only thing it does.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally. I think that's why, you know, having more than just like the visual aesthetics like in play, like I will definitely say a good designer is one that can take words and turn it into graphics, right?
Yes.
So, but you have to have the words first. So that's why, like, any kind of even with brand designer for a day, where we're doing templates, I still have you do, you know, background and research and picking and who are you and who's your ideal client, like, because you can't do it without that, or else it's like I
Yeah.
said, we were just saying, it's inauthentic, it's flat, it's surface, right?
Right.
So you have to have that foundation in place to get to the visual voice. You have to have a brand voice in like literal written terms or verbal whatever
Yeah.
before you can get to a visual place, because you have to translate the story to visuals, right? So you
Right.
can't start with the visuals and just pick arbitrarily, or else it's not built on anything, you know, and you're like, who am I, what am I like? And people, I
Exactly.
think if you're confused about your brand, then more confused are people that are coming to your site or like that want to hire you. They're like, wait, I don't, what? Who is she again? What does she do? Like, I'm so confused. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, you have
They
to
pick
get
up
your
on that
story
stuff.
straight,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's what I do for people, right? So I always say I'm like pre-creative, so
Yeah,
that you have your story straight, and then you can have a designer or a writer translate that story for you into like
yeah.
tangible
You need to
things in
be
the world.
clear on your own. Like sometimes we you know, clients come to us and they've had brand coaching, and I'm like, oh, hallelujah. Like, because like all the hard work is done. Like they get it. Like they know their client. They know who that they're about. They know their story. Like they have their brand voice. I'm like, oh, like it's amazing. That's like the hardest part, right? And I don't even know that we're like, you know, it's not like necessarily our specialty, right? Like we're not,
Mhm.
this isn't like our whole thing. So we do like a version of it, but it's nothing like, you know, like what someone like you would like dive into way deeper and do all the hard work. And I think that the difference between that, so like when someone like hiring you and diving into brand story and voice and all that stuff like way ahead of time, is that it's going to be more solid of a foundation. Because I
Mhm.
think that even because if some of our clients, like if they're too new and they haven't done the like work enough, like we try to get them to do the work enough. And I'm not even really with our clients now, but probably in the past, I would say like more so for the past, because I really dive into this more now. But in the past, if they didn't dive into it deep enough, I can see them shifting. Like it's almost like you know, their sales are kind of moving as
Oh,
we're trying to brand for them.
yeah.
Because they're like, we're like, okay, well, so we're going in this direction. And they're like, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Are you sure? I mean, do you think? Because I also, and we're like, oh no, like
Yeah. Yeah.
We're losing the train here. It's kind of going off the track a little bit. And then that's when this happens to a lot of business owners too. Like when they just kind of throw something up, 6 months later, or we're like, what? This isn't even me anymore. Like, I don't even recognize this website. It doesn't fit me anymore. So I
Yeah.
think the better and deeper a dive you do ahead of time and really go to the core of who you are, who you help, like what you do differently, like all those, really core, like stuff that's hard to get, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
The more solid that is, the less you have to worry about that changing. Cause it's not, because
Right.
I mean, would you agree that like kind of like
Oh,
the deeper
yes.
that you get, the more solid they are and the less they are changing their branding every, few months or something?
Exactly. But not only that, like when you have that really strong foundation, changes don't look like you're following a whim. You can still
Yeah.
evolve and
Yeah.
leave room for creativity and fun in how you're showing up as a business, but it's with intention. And like I often say, when you have this foundation in place, you'll know where new ideas fit
Yeah.
versus just like always tagging on, or switching. It's more like,
Yep.
I want to do this and I can see how it fits into the
Yeah.
big picture and the foundation.
Yeah.
And I want to do this and I can see how it doesn't fit. So,
Yeah. So you
it's
don't
like,
have shiny object syndrome, right? You might see the shiny
exactly.
object and be like, nope, that doesn't fit. Nope, that doesn't fit.
Exactly. So it's all about having a strong foundation and then having the right people who can help you, bring it to
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. It's funny. Don't you feel like sometimes you're just a mirror? Like you're not
Oh,
even saying,
absolutely. I don't create
because people
anything. I just reflect it. Yeah.
because people can't, gosh, I don't know if it's just creatives or if it's all people, but they just cannot. I'll say it because I'm right there too. It's so hard to see yourself. It's like
Mm.
you have to go, okay, like what you were saying, I see you as this. I'm like, oh, you do? Okay. Like, okay. I think I
Yeah.
know how people see me, but it's so like you just need an outside perspective to go, this is how you're coming across. This is who you are. Like this is what I'm
Yeah.
seeing. This is what I'm hearing you say. Like there's been several things that like you've even repeated. I'm like, oh, did I say that? Like, so it's like you're just this mirror. You just need someone from an outsider perspective to just, I don't know, make sense of it
Yes.
all, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like we take the most um, potent and compelling and interesting things about ourselves for granted. And
Yeah.
that's like our job,
Yeah.
is finding them, seeing them, and helping people own them, because
Yeah.
they're going to take them for granted. They're going to be looking at other people and saying, but I wish I was like that instead. And it's our job to help them never feel like they have to copy or make up,
Right.
like be something they're not, or anything like that, and still feel like, wow, my brand is incredible and I wouldn't want anything other than this.
Yeah. I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's like such a good feeling too, to be in that space of just like, I'm just doing it like that. Like I'm here. This is where I'm meant to be.
Hmm.
I love my branding. I love my website. Like I'm helping the clients I want to help. I'm making the money I want to make. Like
Yeah.
to have that, it's just such as it's like everything falls into place. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it as like having it, you've built your house and now you can just live in it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Love it.
if you've built it in a way that you feel good inside,
Right.
then you're not going to want to leave and shift and go build a different house, and
Yeah.
you're going to be able to just like
Own
thrive
it.
in there. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
love that. Like that's a great way to end. But I just wanted to know if there was anything else you wanted to
I'm
add.
sad. I feel like we can just keep talking. I
I
know it's
know.
normally like,
Oh my
a
gosh, I
5-hour
love
thing,
this.
but I feel like we can keep going on this for a while. No, I mean, I just, I think it's about just leaning in, like kind of what you're saying. I think that like finding who you are, gosh, we have such a tendency to compare ourselves to other people. And I would say too, I think we know this intuitively. We know that like what we're seeing from other people isn't really real either, right? Like this whole highlight reel, because I've seen the behind the scenes from some people, like I've gotten to know and meet, some really influential people in business, and I see their behind the scenes and I'm like, you guys, it's not like what you think it is. I mean, not that they're like being inauthentic, but it's just people put, other people in their industries on this like weird pedestal, like where they're like superhuman, and they're not, like, and
Yeah.
so even if you are comparing yourself to someone else, you're not really comparing, you're comparing your version of what you think their life is like. And so
Right.
you just got to let all that go, and you got to be you and just do you, like, because you got to show up the way that you show up, with the gifts you've been given, and the heart that you've been given, and the perspective, and all the talent, all the things that you've been growing up, the kind of groomed to be, and just don't be that version of that you think that other person is, because it's not even real, right? It's not even true. So I think that it's just about believing in ourselves, becoming a better version of ourselves, and dang it, charge enough so that you are not burned out, because I'm telling you, I gotta say, like, nine out of 10 people that I know of, that I come across with, are not charging enough, and whatever reason that is, if it's they don't believe in it, in themselves enough, or if they haven't built those value-based packages, because whatever it is, the issue, or that they just want to help everybody. I don't know what, there's lots of different things it could be, obviously, what we talked about, but whatever it is, like, figure out what that thing is and fix it, so you can breathe and be happy and be authentic, and really help people the way that they deserve to be helped.
I love it. Awesome. Thank
Fun.
you so much. And
Dive into
yeah,
the deep stuff, girl.
I think it's funny that I spent most of my time interviewing a designer about pricing. But I
It's a
love
problem.
that.
I'm not even kidding. Like, I can't even believe it's just one of those things where I just feel like so many people are struggling with. It's like the source of so many issues, right? It's like, if
Hmm.
you're not charging enough, then I mean, there's it's like a domino effect. There's so many
Yeah.
things that kind of that fall out of alignment, because they're not, that's like the most basic thing, is they're not, like, their packages are not enough, and they think they can't charge more, and it's like, it just creates, it's like, yeah, it's a snowball, because it gets worse and worse and worse and worse, and it grows into a bigger, bigger, bigger problem, and it's like, it has to be fixed in order for any of the other things to be fixed. And so I think that people are kind of, it's like that shiny object thing. People are like looking for courses to learn how to do this and like add more to their plate, when they actually just needed to start taking some stuff off, and they wouldn't need any of those courses
Yes.
or any of that craziness. It's like, you need to, like, come to the source of the problem, and then all these, you wouldn't need all this other extra crap. Like, we're like looking for all these answers, but the answer is kind of simple already
It
there.
is.
And I don't remember, it was like, it was in a course or podcast, or I don't remember who said it, but somebody told me, or I heard, that they were basically like, if you have issues being sold to, like, from someone else, it's because
Yes.
you have issues selling, right?
Right.
Like, you'll have it both ways. So, like, you have to be okay with being sold to, and people making money off of you, and like reaching out, like just let them do their thing, right? And be okay with it, and be like, you, that was awesome, you do you, like, whatever, like, be okay with it, and don't feel violated when people try to ask you for money, because it's because of your own issues, if people are.
Yeah.
And so now that, like, I've kind of cleared that up a little bit, and been like, okay, well, I don't have an issue with people selling to me, and it's fine if people make millions of dollars, and it's all good, and like I can make this money, and it's okay, and I'm not greedy. Like, just being okay with all of it has opened me up to being able to help more people now, right? Like, now I can
Cool. Yeah.
charge more, like what we're saying, like, right? It's given me, it's freed up all that ceiling, I guess, that I had for myself, to be like, dude, I could make $1 million, and I could be a normal person, and I don't have to be, this, like, meanie, or I don't know, crazy rich, like, I don't know, evil person, or like, like, or
Cruella
Dr. Evil
Deville.
or something, like, like, I could do this, and I could do it my way, like, I could be a millionaire and do it my way, and I could be like, help people, right? I
Yeah.
can, I'm the destiny, I can control my own destiny with that, and what it looks like for me. I can be the really sweet and nice person and humble, and I can do all those things. There's like no reason I have to be this greedy version of that.
Yes. I feel like